Millionaire wakes up at his own funeral and hears his wife talking to her lover. Hello, welcome, enjoy, subscribe, and activate notifications. Michael Thompson, a highly successful entrepreneur, woke up as if emerging from a deep sleep. His eyelids were initially sealed, and an overwhelming wave of pain and exhaustion swept over him. It was with immense effort that he began to open his eyes, seeking some orientation. But what he saw left him completely stunned. He was not in the safety and comfort of his home, but rather trapped inside a coffin in the middle of his own funeral. He was utterly incapable of moving or speaking. A wave of panic completely overwhelmed him as a flood of tumultuous questions invaded his mind. Where am I? Is this a coffin? Who did this to me? My God, what is happening? Suddenly, he heard voices outside the coffin and recognized the voice of his wife talking to someone. Wow, I thought we'd never get this done, Victoria expressed, her voice imbued with a sense of victory for having successfully executed the plan to get rid of her husband and take his wealth. She continued, already planning the next steps. Now it's just a matter of following through with the plan and then enjoying it, Victoria concluded with a tone of triumph. Yes, my love. Your determination is admirable, her lover responded, acknowledging her resilience. He added, You tried to get rid of him several times. I admit, I thought he wouldn't survive that car accident you arranged on the bridge. Will anyone suspect? Victoria, already anticipating potential future actions, replied, I don't think so. I've covered all the bases. Michael fought internally with his immobile body. How could she do this to me? I gave our marriage countless chances, and this is my reward? I thought we were just going through a rough patch. I need to find a way out of this situation. These thoughts echoed in Michael's mind, filling him with a mixture of sadness and determination to change his fate. Victoria, far from being a grieving widow, acted as if she were inconsolable. Victor, under the guise of a family friend, embraced her, feigning to comfort the false widow while voices buzzed around him. Michael began to recall the small incidents that had accumulated over the past few months. A poorly positioned ladder, a car that almost hit him in the dead of night, a failed robbery, and other moments laden with tension. In his mind, this was just bad luck. But now he could perfectly understand that these were malicious strategies devised by his wife. Michael began to reassess his relationship with Victoria as her voice echoed in his ears again. If he only knew the real reason I married him, he would understand it was purely for revenge. His father violated me, and when I discovered he was that monster's son, I only wanted revenge, she expressed with a furious gleam in her eyes. So, you already knew Michael's father? Victor inquired, raising his eyebrows, oblivious to the sinister plan to end Michael's life. He continued, I thought you just wanted him gone to inherit his money and be with me. Without any desire to justify herself to Victor, Victoria responded, It was for both reasons. Let's wait a bit more. After everyone leaves, we can take the body to his hometown. People will be even more moved since his parents are buried there, she said, clearly uncomfortable with the situation despite appearing calm. Inside, Victoria seethed with rage and contempt, feelings that only grew as she remembered what had happened. Consumed by hatred, she couldn't even process the loss of the man who had, after all, been so good to her even before they got married. Victoria couldn't wait to leave it all behind. Michael was going through a very difficult moment, feeling trapped and anguished. He made an effort to stay calm and think about how to escape that complicated situation. By focusing and taking deep breaths, he managed to move his little finger and his big toe slightly. This brought a bit of hope amidst so much darkness. God, please help me. I need to find a way to escape. I'm sure this isn't my time, he prayed. Victoria, in an emotional appeal to Ivan, who was a close friend of Michael and also worked with him, explained how important it was for Michael to stay close to his family and thus decided to have him buried in his hometown. I know it's very difficult for all of us, but I believe Michael would like to be buried next to his parents, so I'll take him there. It's the best we can do, Victoria said, showing a feigned sadness in her eyes. Yes, there he will rest in peace. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go. I need to manage the company's operations. Production can't stop, Ivan said, suspecting Victoria's look. Of course. I'm not thinking about the company right now, but once my morning passes, I'll get back to you. Now I need to go, she said, trying not to show immediate interest in the money that would be hers. As soon as the funeral ended, Ivan continued his path with many thoughts in his head. Victoria and Victor accompanied the car that carried the body. After almost 3 hours of travel, they arrived in Michael's hometown. Victoria didn't want to stay for Michael's burial. She was certain he was dead, so she preferred to leave everything in the hands of her helpers and departed, focused only on concluding what she had planned. The helpers then called Emilio, the gravedigger, to finish burying Michael, saying he had no family. After giving him some money, they left. Emilio, looking at the coffin, felt deep sadness for the person inside. Meanwhile, Michael started to move his toes and, realizing he could move, made an effort to regain his body's movements. Emilio prepared the place to lay the coffin. The day was gray, and the clouds spread even more sadness, as if the weather itself was mourning Michael. It was one of those days that make anyone feel more melancholic. Emilio, a man of great faith, prayed for the soul that seemed to have been forgotten by everyone. Before burying the coffin, he saw from a distance his niece Yolanda coming towards him. Duke, the dog that always accompanied Emilio, started barking happily when he saw Yolanda. She came closer and said, "Hi, Uncle. I decided to visit you." "You're never at home," Yolanda said in a caring way. "Oh, my dear. If people stop leaving this world, maybe I could relax a bit," Emilio joked, and they both laughed. "Don't say that, Uncle," Yolanda said, trying to hold back a laugh. "Today is quite calm around here. I almost saw no one, so I decided to come in." "But what is this?" she asked, curious and a bit sad, pointing to the lonely coffin. "Ah, niece, something different happened today. An elegant woman and a man who seemed to be her companion arrived here with some helpers. They made a quick signal and paid me for the service and disappeared like shadows, saying the deceased had no family." Yolanda listened attentively. "What a pity, Uncle," she said, her eyes full of pity. However, the melancholy silence was immediately cut by the incessant barking of Duke, who was barking while looking at the coffin with curiosity and a bit of fear. Yolanda approached to see what it was, while Duke barked louder as if trying to say something urgent. "Uncle, do you hear that? It sounds like something is moving inside," Yolanda said, scared. "Could it be?" Emilio asked, not believing it much, but still approached to listen better. "Listen, Uncle," Yolanda asked, paying close attention to the noises coming from inside the coffin. Michael, whom everyone thought was dead, realized that someone had noticed him there. He then started to move and knock harder, calling for help with a weak voice but with his utmost determination. Emilio, with Yolanda's help, ran to open the coffin as quickly as possible. When they managed, they were shocked to see Michael alive, moving slowly and with eyes wide with fear. Yolanda, near the coffin, observed the man pleading for help with terrified eyes. She spoke to him, trying to calm him. "Stay calm. We're going to help you. Breathe, okay?" He tried to respond, though his voice was weak, still persisting, wishing with all his strength to keep his secret hidden. With her ear closer to his mouth, Yolanda heard what he had to say with great difficulty. "Please, don't tell anyone. If she finds out, she tried to bury me alive. Help me get out of here and bury my coffin as if I were dead, please." Yolanda looked at her uncle, asking for his approval. Emilio felt he should help and asked for discretion from his assistants, telling them they could go home as he would take care of the rest. Taking advantage of the cemetery's solitude, Yolanda helped Michael out of the coffin, placed him in her car, and took him to the town hospital while Emilio buried the empty coffin. When Yolanda and Michael arrived at the hospital, Yolanda quickly devised a story. She said that Michael was a cousin who had come to visit her and suddenly felt ill, without understanding the reason. Michael looked tired and very pale. Since Yolanda already knew the hospital staff, she explained that her cousin had come at a difficult time without documents, but that they could trust her. Soon Michael received medical care. He was dehydrated and needed to stay under observation all night. Yolanda stayed by his side, watching over him. She saw that while he slept, he had nightmares, cried, and screamed for help. She tried to understand what he was going through and, with a heavy heart, started talking to him with eyes full of sorrow, trying to bring some comfort. You must be very scared, but everything will be okay. You need to be strong and fight through this tough moment. I'm here to help you, and so is my uncle. We're good people, and we'll keep your secret and help however we can, Yolanda said, trying to calm Michael. She stayed by Michael's side all night, watching him as he slept. He had a face marked by thick eyebrows, brown hair, fair skin, and a serious look. Michael was really handsome and tall, about 6 feet. She wondered, trying to understand who had done this to him and why. The night flew by, and the morning came, bringing sun rays that entered through the room window. Yolanda was there, sleeping on the couch near Michael's bed in a now quiet and silent room, just the two of them. When Michael woke up, he felt confused, thinking he had died, or if he was really in a hospital. Seeing Yolanda sleeping beside him, his heart calmed down. He thanked God for hearing his anguish and, with emotion, let the tears flow. He remembered he needed to call his friend Ivan. But before he could, Yolanda woke up. Michael was happy as he wanted to thank her for saving his life. "Hello. I'm glad you're awake. How are you feeling? Are you better? Can you move?" she asked, concerned. "Hi, miss. Yes, I'm better now, thanks to you. I can move, thank God," he thanked with a look of gratitude, his light brown eyes shining. "I don't even know how to thank you for saving me. If it weren't for you, I would be dead. I imagine what they gave me to leave me paralyzed like that. Thank you so much." "Oh, my name is Michael." Yolanda smiled and continued talking. "My name is Yolanda. I'm glad you're okay now. Look, Michael, it's most likely they used some kind of neuromuscular blocker that caused the loss of movement, and because of the amount, you managed to stay conscious. You seem to know a lot about this. Are you a doctor?" Michael asked, showing interest. "No, but I've always had a great interest in this area, and for a while, I considered a medical career but didn't follow that path." "Wow, that's a shame. Yolanda, if it's not too much trouble, may I ask a favor?" "Of course. What do you need?" "Can you call a friend of mine? I need him to come here." "Do you have his number?" Yolanda asked, wanting to help. Michael then dialed his friend Ivan's number on her phone and asked Yolanda to speak for him, since he still felt tired when talking. Yolanda didn't waste time and called Ivan immediately. "Hello, Ivan? I'm a friend of Michael's, and I need you to come urgently to the hospital. Michael is alive and here with me now." Ivan, surprised by the news, couldn't understand. "What? Michael is alive? How is that possible? Come here, and we'll explain better. But please keep this a secret and don't tell anyone. No one can know he's alive." "My God, this is a miracle. Send me the location, and I'll be there immediately." Michael felt relieved and grateful to hear this. He knew how loyal and trustworthy Ivan was. Yolanda, concerned, looked at Michael, wanting to know what he would do next. "And now, what will you do?" "For now, I'll just rest and think it through. I still feel very tired, and there's a lot to understand," Michael responded, showing he was determined. Yolanda, concerned, offered to do more, but he gently shook his head. "No, it's not necessary. I think what I need now is just to rest a bit more. Ivan will be here soon. If you want, you can go home and rest now. I'll be fine. Then I'll go home, change clothes, and come back quickly." "Are you sure you'll be okay alone?" Yolanda asked, her concern evident in every word. With a weak but grateful smile, Michael assured her, "Yes, I'll be fine. Thank you for everything, Yolanda. You have no idea how much you're helping me." After Yolanda left, Michael closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He began to recall the terror he had experienced inside that coffin and the fear he felt, thinking the world had ended for him. "How could Victoria do this to me?" he thought. "And the part about her being abused, is it really true?" The uncertainty consumed Michael as he began to process everything that had happened before. He remembered how his wife, Victoria, had come into his life and how quickly she wanted to marry him. At that moment, he realized that everything had happened too fast. How could I get involved so easily? Michael reflected indignantly. Victoria had approached him with ulterior motives and knew what she was doing without foreseeing the consequences. When Michael and Victoria met, she was working as a secretary at his company. Victoria stood out not only for her stunning beauty, but also for the way she dressed, attracting glances wherever she went. As she approached Michael, she already had prior knowledge about his life, showing an interest that went beyond professional. Victoria frequently visited Michael's department, claiming work reasons, but her true intentions were different. Recalling, Michael lamented his own naivety. "How could I be so naive?" he questioned himself. Victoria played a manipulation game, making Michael feel compassion for her, showing exaggerated emotional vulnerability. She declared herself madly in love, revealing a secret as a way to solidify their trust. "I can't believe I fell in love with you, Michael," she would say, positioning herself as a victim. "Why don't you believe it? You're human, and humans fall in love," he replied, concerned about how quickly she expressed her feelings. "If you knew my past, you'd understand why it's so hard for me to believe I'm in love with you," she hinted, wrapped in mystery. When Victoria discovered that the man she hated most in the world had a son who was a businessman, she decided to take revenge. She managed to get an interview at the company for the secretary position and was attended to by Ivan, Michael's right-hand man. While Ivan explained the job, Victoria scanned the entire room until she stopped in front of a photo whose silhouette she could never forget. It was the man she hated most in the world. At the first opportunity, she commented, "What a beautiful picture. Are these the owners of the company?" Victoria asked, feigning innocent curiosity. "Oh yes, this man with honey-colored eyes is Michael, the company owner, and beside him are his father Theodore and his mother, Catherine," Ivan explained, pointing to each person in the image. Hearing Theodore's name made Victoria shiver. "Incredible. Young and already the owner of such a big business," she said, making a great effort to hide the hatred she felt for Michael's father. Without suspecting Victoria's intentions and considering her exceptional resume, Ivan hired her for the secretary position. Everything was going perfectly according to Victoria's plan. As the days passed and work continued, the desire for revenge against Michael's father only grew. So, after much planning, she concluded that seducing Michael, marrying him, and making him suffer would be the best retribution. When Michael arrived at the office, greeting everyone, Victoria watched him attentively and noticed he had features very similar to his father. With a cordial smile, she returned the greeting. As the days went by, Victoria got closer to Michael, and eventually, they started going out. She sought to awaken his compassion by talking about the difficulties she had faced and how she now felt fulfilled. In one of these encounters, in her manipulation game, Victoria revealed something very personal to him. "Michael, I need to confess something I've never told anyone before," she said, capturing Michael's attention with an intense look. Michael, showing concern, responded, "Are you sure about this? We've just met, and it might be too soon to share secrets with each other." Noticing Victoria's sad look, Michael reconsidered his words, realizing he had been harsh. He then apologized and, with a smile, tried to ease the tension. "Okay, you can trust me. Your secret will be safe." "You see," Victoria hesitated for a moment, as if weighing every word she was about to say, "my life hasn't been easy. I've been through things I wouldn't wish on anyone. 12 years ago, I got involved with an older man. We lived our romance in secret, away from everyone's eyes. But then I discovered he was married and decided to end it. He didn't accept it and started following me, threatening me. I tried with all my patience to make him give up, but 2 months later, on a street I always walked to get home, he caught me by surprise. That day, he seemed more like a monster than a man. He attacked me, forced me to do horrible things, then threatened me, saying I would never be happy and that he would kill me if he saw me with someone else." From that day on, Victoria began to harbor a deep disdain for all men, leading her to recluse herself at home for several months, avoiding any external contact. Michael, touched by Victoria's sincerity, saw in the sharing of her insecurities and traumas a foundation for mutual trust. He was moved by the story and felt a wave of protection and desire to care for her. "I'm so sorry, Victoria. I'm here for you whenever you need. I want to help you overcome the past and build a better future," Michael said, completely engrossed by her story and the vulnerability she demonstrated. He couldn't imagine that behind this apparent fragility, a precise revenge plot was being woven. Days passed, and their relationship deepened quickly. Victoria had Michael wrapped around her finger, manipulating his emotions and guiding his actions without him noticing. She was skilled at maintaining the facade of a loving woman struggling against the ghosts of her past while internally celebrating every step taken towards her revenge. Michael, on the other hand, was blinded by the love and compassion he felt for Victoria. He didn't see the red flags nor question the coincidences and timely encounters that led them to that point. In his mind, he had found someone who, despite the adversities, was capable of loving and being loved. Someone who understood him and shared his dreams for the future. He always made himself available for Victoria, offering his unconditional support and even suggesting she seek psychological help to overcome her traumas. Despite this, Victoria showed reluctance to accept such a suggestion, fearing that seeking assistance might somehow violate her privacy or expose her in an uncomfortable way. As time went on, however, Victoria began to frequent Michael's house more regularly, causing him to develop increasing trust in her, leading to conversations about marriage. Victoria interpreted this progress in their relationship as a reward for her efforts, and no matter how good a man Michael was, she still harbored feelings of revenge, above all, wishing to cause him suffering. When Michael, increasingly in love, proposed to Victoria, she accepted, seeing this as a significant step in her plan. The first months of marriage went smoothly, with Victoria dedicating herself to work at Michael's company. However, the couple's dynamics began to change drastically after Michael received the news that his parents, who supposedly lived abroad, wanted to visit them. Victoria reacted nervously to the news, trying to imagine what she would do to avoid meeting Michael's father. Since the incident with him, she had changed her hair color, and her body was different, which fortunately made his father not recognize her by photo. But being face-to-face with the man who had violated her was too much for her. However, the situation took an unexpected and tragic turn. Coincidentally or not, on the day of his parents' trip, their private jet failed during the flight, involving his father and mother in a fatal accident. This tragedy left Victoria secretly relieved, while Michael plunged into deep mourning. Victoria didn't attend the funeral, claiming she was feeling too unwell that day, leaving Michael to face this painful moment alone. In the following days, while Michael still tried to deal with his parents' loss, he noticed disturbing changes in Victoria's behavior. She had frequent nightmares and showed increasing distance. With time, Victoria secretly started an extramarital relationship with Victor, a medical student interning at a nearby clinic, with whom she shared not only physical attraction but also her darkest plans. This new relationship represented for Victoria not only a form of escapism, but also a means to execute vengeful plans reflecting her internal pain. She often lied to Michael, saying she had decided to start therapy and was going to sessions when, in fact, she was meeting Victor. Victor, for his part, was willing to do anything to satisfy Victoria, without fully understanding the depths of her anguish and the true motives behind her actions. Michael felt that Victoria was distancing more and more, not understanding what was happening. One day, she packed a bag and said she would spend a few days at her friend's house. To not make things worse, Michael consented, saying he would miss her, believing that giving her some time could help her overcome the turbulent phase she was going through. However, he couldn't imagine that Victoria would actually spend the time with her lover. Over the days, Michael called several times to know how Victoria was, but she simply ignored his calls. She had already gone several days without sleeping. Michael's father frequently appeared in her dreams, telling her to leave his son alone. He will be at peace, yes, inside a coffin, she thought, with diabolical plans in mind. After a week, she returned home, determined to take action. She decided to get rid of Michael, consumed by a sick hatred and with a terrible plan in mind, trying to maintain an appearance of normalcy. Upon arriving home and meeting Michael, she hugged him, hiding the true intention behind her gesture. Victoria suggested he order a pizza while she would choose the wine, simulating a return to normalcy. Michael, relieved and happy, believed things were finally getting back to normal, but Victoria had other plans, far from a happy reunion. Michael ordered the pizza and said he would take a quick shower since he had just arrived from work. While Michael refreshed in the shower, Victoria carefully served the wine, with a nearly imperceptible gesture adding drops of a mysterious liquid to Michael's glass, murmuring to herself about the quantity. With the calmness of someone who knows what they're doing, she sipped her own wine, waiting for Michael's return. When Michael returned, enveloped in the freshness post-shower, Victoria presented him with the glass of wine with a smile. Before he could taste the drink, she drew him into a kiss, a gesture loaded with intention and farewell, as if wanting to seal that moment. "How was it at your friend's house? Did you have fun?" Michael asked, trying to make conversation. "Yes, it was good to distract myself a bit," she replied, trying to seem enthusiastic to convince him. Michael emptied his glass of wine in one gulp, and Victoria seized the opportunity to refill it, as if nothing was happening. Suddenly, the intercom rang, announcing the pizza's arrival. Victoria offered to answer, but Michael insisted on going. When he returned, he placed the pizza on the table and, feeling an unexpected drowsiness, lay down on the couch, resting his head on Victoria's lap. She, in turn, thought with satisfaction, "I hope you sleep forever, dear." "We better eat before the cheese gets cold," she suggested, hiding her contentment. "I'm feeling a bit dizzy." "It's been a while since I drank like this," he murmured, feeling a strange tingling take over his body. Shortly after, Michael fell into a deep sleep and only woke up inside a coffin. Now lying on the hospital bed, Michael began to piece together the puzzle, realizing the extent of the manipulation and betrayal. The revelation was painful not only for the betrayal itself, but also for the reality that the love he felt for Victoria was based on lies and manipulations. He wondered how someone could be so calculating, how they could plan another person's destruction with such coldness. As tears rolled down his face, Michael knew he had a long road ahead. Not only would he need to recover physically, but he would also have to face the truth about Victoria and somehow find the strength to move forward despite the devastating betrayal. He knew the first step would be to trust Ivan, his loyal friend, and with his help, rebuild his life. A life free from the webs of deception that Victoria had woven around him. Suddenly, Ivan entered the room, completely shocked, unable to believe what his eyes were seeing. "My God, what happened to you, Michael?" Ivan's tears streamed down his face, his voice filled with empathy for his friend, taken by despair at the thought that Michael could have been buried alive. "It's all right now, Ivan. I'm fine now. Fortunately, I woke up in time, and a girl who was at the cemetery with her uncle helped me. She brought me here. My God, this sounds like a horror movie. We need to investigate who did this to you and seek justice. I know who did this to me, and she will pay for it," Michael said, determined. "And what about the company? What will I say to everyone there?" "They think you're dead," Ivan said, his voice faltering, overwhelmed by the recent events. "I want you to take charge of the company in my place." "I trust you," Michael declared, demonstrating his complete confidence. "You remember that power of attorney I gave you in case something happened to me?" "Yes, but what about Victoria?" Ivan questioned, still concerned. "She will get what she deserves. Take this power of attorney and assume my position. I'll guide you from here. Tell her there are pending legal matters. She doesn't understand business, so you'll be responsible for everything. In my will, it states that the company will go to you if something happens to me." Ivan, still overcome with emotion, could barely find the words. "Thank you, Michael, for the trust. I don't even know what to say," he said, his voice choked with gratitude and surprise. "But tell me what happened to you," Ivan asked, his concern and suspicion regarding Victoria and Victor evident in his tone. Michael then unraveled the entire story for Ivan, who listened with deep sadness reflected in his eyes, his tears flowing in a constant stream of pain and empathy for his friend. Ivan imagined himself in Michael's place, trapped inside a coffin, desperate, unable to speak or move. With determination, he promised to help Michael investigate and seek proof that they had tried to kill him. While drying his tears, Michael tried to console Ivan that the worst was over. The friends spent time talking, sharing pains and plans, until Yolanda appeared, her sweet smile lighting up the room. "It was her," Michael said, recalling who had saved him. Looking affectionately at Yolanda, Ivan commented, "Thank you so much. You have incredible hearing. He expressed his admiration and gratitude for her insistence on investigating the coffin and for entering their lives at that critical moment. "Oh, it's nothing. No need to thank me. I just did what any person should do." And actually, one of the big heroes of this story was my uncle's dog. He started barking nonstop at the coffin. It was because of him that we paid more attention, and then I started hearing noises coming from inside. I admit I got goosebumps at that moment, but despite the fear, we decided to investigate. It's strange, isn't it, how life can hang by a thread, and sometimes a bark is all it takes to change fate. There was a brief silence, a moment of shared reflection. Ivan and Michael exchanged glances, the gratitude and mutual recognition shining in their eyes. "Indeed, Yolanda, we are deeply grateful for you answering that call and your uncle's dog. Ah, he's a great hero. Thanks to him and your actions, we are here together now, talking." The three continued conversing for a few more minutes, with Michael and Ivan asking questions and Yolanda explaining more about her perspective and actions that day. "And after you leave here, where will you stay?" Ivan asked Michael, wanting to know his next steps. "He'll stay at my house. I can help him there," Yolanda immediately responded. Michael, surprised, just smiled, enchanted by Yolanda's words. She soon left, leaving them at ease. Ivan then said he would stay there that night, taking care of Michael and covering the hospital expenses. They spent the night talking, and Ivan noticed that Michael feared falling asleep. "Don't worry, I'm here with you. Nothing will happen to you. Try to rest," Ivan reassured Michael, not fully understanding the trauma he had suffered. The next day, Yolanda returned to the hospital to take Michael and invited Ivan for breakfast at her house, offering instructions for him to return whenever he wanted. Ivan agreed, and they all left the hospital together. At home, Emilio awaited them, relieved to see Michael well. He had already bought several new clothes for Michael at Yolanda's request. "Feel at home," Yolanda gently said. Emilio, greeting them, offered the freshly prepared breakfast. "I've made toast with butter and jam, and there's fresh coffee. Help yourselves." "And you, young man, how are you?" he asked Michael. "I'm fine now, Mr. Emilio. Thank you. I haven't had the chance to thank you properly. Everything was so confusing." "Don't worry about it, young man. Life is precious and mysterious, and many times we can't find words to express our feelings. Just live this new beginning and follow your heart," Emilio advised wisely. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go to the cemetery. Have a good day." With that, Emilio left, leaving the three of them alone in the cozy house. As they settled in, Michael looked at Yolanda, curious about what she had arranged with Emilio. With a smile, Yolanda noticed their curiosity before they could ask. "I'll explain everything," she started. "Years ago, after a traumatic incident involving the death of my parents, I began working at an orphanage. It was there that I first encountered Patricia, a young woman who had just left a baby behind. Her story, her look, everything about her stuck with me. When I discovered the connection between Patricia and Michael, I knew I had to dig deeper to understand her motives." As Michael listened, he was deeply moved by the explanation, understanding for the first time the depth of Yolanda's involvement and her genuine concern for him. "Thank you, Yolanda," he said sincerely. "Your knowledge of Patricia's life helped save mine." A few days passed, and during that time, Yolanda frequently conducted therapy sessions with Michael, encouraging him to focus on the present and future and on what brought him joy. Michael couldn't forget the conversation Yolanda had with Patricia. He didn't understand how Yolanda knew so much about Patricia's life, but what disturbed him most was the matter of the baby left at the orphanage. If that were true, it meant he had a sister. When he talked to Yolanda about it, she said that if he was ready, they could go there together to check if she had been adopted or was still at the orphanage. Curious, Michael asked how she knew about this. "Well, there's a part of my story I haven't told you yet. When I was young, my mother was run over by a man driving drunk. Unfortunately, she died on the spot, and it was one of the hardest moments for me. Having nowhere to go, I ended up coming to live with my uncle Emilio, who, despite his financial limitations, did his best to help me pay for university. And it was in this orphanage where your sister was left that I started my internship in psychology. There, I provided care to the children, and it was on one of those days, while I was working, that I noticed a very young girl entering with a baby in her arms to leave him there. Her empty and sad look was noticeable. When she left, the secretary called me to review the history of that mother. At the time, I had to record everything in the baby's registration form. It was then that she told me Patricia's story. Her name was engraved in my mind. That sad and empty look stuck with me like a cry for help. So when I went to investigate more about her life to make her confess, I came across her name, which struck me like a lightning bolt in my mind. Michael was touched by Yolanda's words. It was a lot of information for him to process. Deep down, he felt pity for Patricia for everything she had gone through. He thanked Yolanda for the explanation and said he wanted to go to the orphanage, adding that he was determined to adopt his sister if she was still there. Upon arriving at the location, the two headed to the secretary's office to check the girl's history. While they waited, Michael observed the children walking down the corridor, wondering if any of them could be his sister. Anxiety consumed him, desperately wishing to find her. After a few minutes, the secretary arrived with the response. "Mr. Michael, the girl you're looking for hasn't been adopted yet." Michael felt his heart beat faster and immediately asked, "Does that mean she's here?" "Yes, she's here. Her name is Clara." Tears of joy flowed down Michael's face as he hugged Yolanda tightly. The secretary guided them to the girl's presence, now 12 years old. Seeing her, Michael held back tears. Clara looked very much like him in his youth, with a warm and welcoming smile. She asked why he was crying. Michael revealed that she was his sister and that he was there to adopt her. In a moment of privacy, Michael and Clara engaged in an intimate and prolonged conversation. With a heavy but caring heart, Michael chose to share with Clara a delicately modified version of reality. His goal was to protect the young girl's sensitivity, avoiding reopening wounds or introducing more complex information into her mind. With a gentle and thoughtful approach, he began to weave the story of their parents, two people who, in times past, had found a profound and true love in each other. From this intense union, Clara came to exist, a product of genuine love. However, life, with its unexpected twists, led to the couple's separation before Clara's birth. Her father, confronted with professional demands that called him away, left without the slightest idea that his departure left behind not only a love but a new life on the way. The separations and harsh reality of distance caused them to completely lose contact. Faced with Clara's imminent arrival and lacking resources or support, her mother saw herself in a heartbreaking decision. Believing that leaving Clara at the orphanage was the best choice for her future, she made that painful decision, hoping Clara could have a better future there. Nevertheless, after the brief explanation, the conversation quickly shifted when Michael purposely changed the subject. He started talking about the next steps, mentioning that he would take care of the necessary paperwork for her to come live with him as soon as possible. Hearing this, the girl was filled with joy, excited about finally having a place to call home. Michael, determined to make the adoption process as quick and smooth as possible, decided to hire a lawyer specializing in adoption cases. He sought a renowned professional, someone capable of navigating the legal system with agility, ensuring all necessary documents were prepared and presented correctly. His commitment to Clara's cause was palpable, and he was willing to do whatever it took to ensure she had a new beginning by his side. As the week progressed, Michael found a moment of calm to confide in Yolanda that he felt revitalized both physically and emotionally, ready to resume his life and routine. Hearing this, a shadow of sadness crossed Yolanda's face, the prospect of parting from Michael bringing a silent pain to her heart. "Yolanda," Michael said, his voice filled with gratitude and a touch of emotion, "before I leave, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me all this time. And I confess it was wonderful being by your side all these days. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even be alive now." Upon hearing these words, Yolanda smiled sweetly, a smile hiding the words her heart wanted to say but her mouth couldn't pronounce. The imminent farewell created an invisible barrier between them. "Meeting you was one of the most precious gifts of my life, Michael." At that moment, Michael took a step forward, enveloping Yolanda in a hug that seemed to compensate for all the distance that would soon separate them. Caressing her face and looking deeply into her eyes, a silence filled with unspoken words surrounded the couple. Yolanda felt her heart race. a warmth enveloping her completely as Michael's proximity made every heartbeat feel more intense. Being so close to Michael, so close to his lips, left her disoriented, unable to think clearly. In an impulsive move, Yolanda kissed Michael, a kiss expressing feelings that had been repressed until then, a kiss to which Michael responded with equal passion. Still affected by that moment, Michael said he needed to leave, but that he had something he wanted to give her first. Michael took a small box from his pocket, knelt before Yolanda, his eyes shining with a mix of hope and love. "Yolanda, will you date me?" With a smile that lit up the entire room, Yolanda said yes. A yes that sealed not only her response to his request, but also the desire to share every moment of her life with Michael. Michael, not wanting to waste a moment away from her, proposed that Yolanda move in with him. He suggested that she could continue her career at his company, adding that it would be an immense help to have her close, especially for Clara, who would certainly benefit from her psychological support. Yolanda, her heart overflowing with happiness, accepted without hesitation, asking only for a few days to organize her life before starting this new journey with Michael. A week passed, and thanks to the lawyer's skill and dedication, along with Michael's readiness to meet all legal requirements, the adoption process advanced at an impressive speed. In just 1 week, all procedures were completed, an almost unheard-of achievement for adoption cases. With the documents finalized and the adoption made official, the day arrived for Clara to leave the orphanage. She could barely contain her excitement, a mix of nervousness and joy filling her. Michael, for his part, was filled with pride and anticipation, aware of the significance of this moment and all the moments that would follow together. Hand in hand, Michael, Clara, and Yolanda left the orphanage, ready to start a new journey as a family. I sincerely hope you enjoyed the story. I'm sure the next video appearing on your screen will also move you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. A big kiss and see you in the next story.